Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second part of the finale to the first annual Halloween special. And I just want to say really quickly before I start the actual review, thank you guys for watching all these reviews for the first annual Halloween special. Um, and maybe go back and watch those. I have a playlist of the Halloween special up on the homepage of the channel. So if you guys want to revisit that, you can go right ahead, along with the complete first two seasons of my review series, along with the complete series as well. And um, and now that I'm thinking about it, after this after this review, I only have two more episodes until the end of season 2 of the series, and then we're gonna start season 3. Which I do plan on making it better than ever. So I really hope you guys enjoy. But anyway, guys, enough of me rambling, and let's get on to the review. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Russell's Movie Reviews, and welcome to the final part of the first annual Halloween special. Really quickly before I get on to the actual review, as you guys could quickly tell by the title and the thumbnail, I'll get to that in a bit. But really quickly, I didn't really show this off for the initial Halloween reviews, so I want to quickly show off um, this edition I have right now. This is the FYE exclusive steelbook release. Um, it has a nice cover of Michael Myers, which is taken from the 35th anniversary Blu-ray. Um, that's the spine. This says John Carpenter's Halloween. And the back obviously has that pumpkin and the knife, you know, like the classic poster. You open it up. Now, at first, it just seems pretty bland, with just like a white background and the 35th anniversary disc. But if you actually remove it, if I can, you actually see that it's actually the face of Michael Myers in the back, which I think is a really nice touch. I'm still gonna keep the steelbook, but I really wish I could get the 4K at some point of this movie, but just want to get that done and over with. But anyway, I just want to get that out of the way really quick. Now it's time for the main event. As you guys could already tell by the title and the thumbnail, and obviously still by my attire. Today we're gonna be ending off this year's first annual Halloween special with Halloween 2, released in 1981. And you know, I think this is honestly a really good sequel. Is it as good as the first one? No. I think it's a good horror flick. Yeah. And and yeah. Really quickly, actually, I should probably talk about the steelbook after talk about everything else. So let's get over some of the details. So this was directed by Rick Rosenthal, which I believe before directing Halloween 2, he only directed, I think, a short film. Um, and apparently John Carpenter really apparently liked the short film that he directed and gave him the reins to direct the Halloween sequel. And even though he directed a great film with Halloween 2, he went on and did Halloween Resurrection, which we don't talk about because that film is actual trash. But that is for a later thoughts on for a future Halloween special, not this one. This was made on a $2.5 million budget compared to the first film, which was only $325,000, and domestically it made over $25 million. So this was a success. Worldwide, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but it was confirmed that it was a financial success. Um, but the critics, apparently this film did better than the other horror films that were coming around at the time, like Friday the 13th Part 2 and The Howling, but it didn't receive that many good reviews by critics. Uh, the biggest point of their criticisms, basically saying that it just felt like a rehash of the first film, but also with all the stuff that we'll be getting to later. It just felt like every this film just felt like every generic slasher flick. Um, I could see where they're coming from with that, but honestly, compared to the slasher films of the at the time, I think this is honestly a really better film compared to what was going on around the time. But I'll get to my thoughts on in a bit. But really quickly, let's talk about that plot. So, after failing to kill stubborn survivor Laurie Strode, played by again Jamie Lee Curtis, and taken 6 bullets from former psychiatrist Dr. Sam Loomis, played by once again I'm sorry, Michael Myers, Donald Pleasance, Michael Myers, which is this time it's played by Dick Castle or Dick Warlock, not Dick Castle, not Nick Castle from the first film, which unfortunately did not return. Um, but anyways, Michael Myers has followed Laurie to the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, where she's been admitted for Myers' attempt on her life. The institution proves to be particularly suited for serial killers, however, as Myers cuts, stabs, and slashes his way through the hospital staff to reach his favorite victim. Now, this plot sounds pretty creative, especially for a sequel, where it just kind of seems like it would just be a rehash of what they already did. But I like the fact that they decided to go in a kind of different direction with the plot. Um, and yeah. Um, but anyway, let's talk about the cast. So obviously we have Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance returning as Laurie Strode and Dr. Loomis, respectively. And Jamie and Laurie seems like she's taking a back seat in this film because throughout the whole thing, she's basically either in a bed or wandering around like a drunk. Um, which I'll actually explain why she acts like that in the last part of the film later on. Um, and um, yeah, it just in the context of the theatrical version, it just seems kind of abrupt that she'll just go from kind of like same old Lori to all of a sudden being very catatonic. Like obviously she's able to move around, but she can't really speak. Donald Pleasance is great as usual. Um, he kind of just seems like the main character of the film, even though it's really supposed to be Laurie's story. We have, like I said before, Dick Warlock as Michael Myers. Now, he is a little bit shorter than Nick Castle, and the hair on the mask is a little bit off. Which, by the way, if you guys don't know about the mask, I'll just quickly mention it. The mask is actually a Captain Kirk mask. Apparently, it was a 1975 Captain Kirk mask. Um, which they painted white and dyed the hair brown. Um, and obviously you got the Michael Myers mask, which is obviously, you know, what I have right here. But trying to get it in a good kind of angle. There we go. But yeah, this is basically it was a William Shatner mask, painted white, and obviously the hair was painted brown. Which I do plan on actually getting a better mask at some point instead of this one because I prefer to have the hair actually like hair and not like molded into the mask. Um, but I'll keep this one for now since at least it's something. But uh, and like I said before, this knife also was, I believe both this knife and the mask were made by Trick or Treat Studios. Which are and these are were both labeled as Halloween 2 stuff. So anyway, um, yeah, apparently yeah, Dick Warlock is a little bit shorter than Nick Castle, and the hair is kind of scruffy. But he still captures the same mannerisms as Nick Castle. Not as good in my opinion, but I think he does a very suitable job. And to really kind of quickly go back on the William Shatner thing, there was a film. that he starred in 1975 called The Devil's Reign, which apparently is also the same year that the Captain Kirk mask was also made. Um, and even though it was uh, specified that it was a Captain Kirk mask, I think they said that they took the the actual cast of William Shatner's face from The Devil's Reign. And what's also kind of ironic about that film is that William Shatner does the Michael Myers like kind of head tilt. Um, and it's like, okay, either this is like this was meant to be, or it's a really freaking convenient coincidence. Um, and it's just like Jesus. It's like like the stars are aligning. Like seriously. We have Charles Cyphers returning as Sheriff Lee Brackett, who's really only in like the first like 30 minutes of the movie. Or actually, no, like the first like 20 minutes of the movie, and then he's out of the picture because he finds out that his daughter has obviously been murdered by Michael Myers. So he kind of just puts himself out of the film, and a new deputy shows up. Deputy Gary Hunt, played by Hunter Hunter von Lur. He does okay. Not as good as Lee Brackett, but he does a suitable job. Um, we also have Lance Guest, who, if you guys are movie fans like me, you guys may recognize Lance Guest from a certain film called The Last Starfighter, which is ironically directed by Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers, or The Shape, in the first Halloween movie. Coincidence, isn't it? Um, but um, he does pretty good in this role. I think this was his first movie role, and then he obviously went on and did The Last Starfighter. Um, and I'm like, well, you have acting chops, but I haven't seen you in like anything in like years. Because really, I only recognize you from Halloween 2 and The Last Starfighter, and you haven't popped up in really anything else since then. Um, we also have Nancy Steffens returning as Marine Chambers, or Marion Chambers. She has a bigger part in this film than she did in the first film. Um, and um, she has way more scenes in this movie than she did in the first film. Um, but yeah. And finally, we have Pamela Susan Shoop, or Shop. Yeah, because it's two O's, so Shoop, as Karen Bailey, who is one of the nurses. Like, really, honestly, all like the doctors and the nurses at the hospital are basically just cannon fodder. So like, what's the point of even remembering those names? Um, but I think she's the one that has the bath scene with Bud. Where we get the another glorious tit shot. Um, and her tits were actually shown twice in that scene before she's killed off. Um, and um, and yeah, like really, that's it. Like honestly, like you can't really remember. Like I think this was honestly the first horror movie that like you couldn't like I couldn't remember all the names of the cast members. Like especially like people in the hospital. Like it was just like so like I couldn't even remember. It was like, well, what's the point? You guys are cannon fodder anyway, so just there you go, you're dead. Um, but yeah. So we're gonna get on to the fun fact right now. Well, actually, really quickly, I'm gonna talk about this Blu-ray edition that I have right here. This was made by a company called Shout Factory under the Screen Factory label, and they put out some great releases. Um, you may have seen, you've seen some of the releases before in some of my previous videos, including The Thing, which I had the standard release of that. But for Halloween 2, I managed to actually get this wonderful steelbook release, which has a shot from the end of the film when, I guess, well, spoilers. I mean, granted, all my movie reviews are spoilers, like, are gonna have spoilers in it, but anyway. The cover is basically, um, Michael Myers at the end of the movie when, um, I'm not gonna say who yet because I'm actually gonna be talking about this later in my favorite scenes. But he's basically set on fire and, well, there's the front, the spine, and the back. And you may be wondering who is that? Well, that's actually Lori because if you open it up, it makes a perfect, like panoramic view where you have Michael Myers right there, and then you have Lori over here, like hiding, like to keep herself away from Michael Myers. And then on the inside, you have my favorite quote in the whole movie. Um, you don't know what death is, which is basically a part of the intro sequence of the film. And then you have this disc. I'm sorry, is the theatrical cut, so it's the Blu-ray disc, and this one up here is the television version. So, and for some reason, this one's on a DVD, and yet the theatrical cut is on a Blu-ray. So, I don't know what the whole deal is with that. Um, but sure. Um, but yeah, I love the steelbook release, but honestly, I think I want to get the standard edition. Um, and so I could just watch that one more than having to open up this fantastic steelbook. Um, but anyway, let's get on to the fun fact. So the fun fact that I have for this one is, even though that this, even though the film is set right after the events of the first film, Laurie's hair is a little bit longer because Jamie was wearing a wig. Sorry, I just had a massive burp right there. So yeah, you guys may have noticed that Laurie's hair kind of changes between which I have the steelbook right here, between the first and second films. That is actually because, obviously, the first film was filmed in like 1977, and the second one was filmed in like 1980. So 3 years has passed. Um, so obviously there's gonna be changes in people's lives, and um, obviously for Jamie Lee Curtis, she had cut her hair at this point, so she didn't have the kind of like the long hair that she had in the first film. So they decided to put a wig on her for the second film to have the consistency of like the long hair. Because obviously from the film's plot, as I already mentioned, this film takes place right after the events of the first film. So what it would be really weird if she had long hair in the first film, and then all of a sudden in this film, she all of a sudden had like really short hair. So they put a wig on her, but it's really obvious that she's wearing a wig, cause it's like not like super like longer than the first than she had like the hair she had in the first one, but it's noticeable that it's like it's a slightly brighter color than her hair in the first film. Granted, it's probably just because of the lighting. But it's the fact of she has the wig has lighter hair than her original, and the fact that it's a little bit longer than her original hair as well. So it's like, okay, well now I notice that it's a wig. Um, and it's just like, well, what's the point? Uh, yeah. Now we're gonna be going on to my favorite scenes, and now I actually, for some reason, have a lot more favorite scenes with this film than the first film. Um, so I guess first off, my first favorite scene would honestly be the recap at the beginning of the film of the ending to the first film, because that was like my all-time favorite scene from the film. Um, So really, I don't need to mention it that much in this one, since I already kind of talked into depth about it in the previous review. So if you want to know what that was about, go watch the previous review. And by the way, this part is gonna be massive spoilers for everyone who hasn't seen it. Uh, but if you have seen it or you just don't care, then let's continue on. My second favorite scene would honestly have to be um I think I think the bathtub scene. One because the obvious and oh Jesus. I mean, I'm like 14, about to turn 15 in like a week. So, oh Jesus Christ. But but one, it's not really because of the obvious, but it's because the way that Michael Myers, well, one, he just strangles Bud, and he just goes up to Karen and just kind of just lets her fondle his hand, and then he just grabs her head and just dunks her into the pool because he set the temperature of the water to go like scalding hot. So every time she like dips her head into the pool, it gets like slightly like more redder until like it gets like the point where like literally like the skin's like peeling away from her face, and like he keeps on dunking it in, and then he just drops her, and it's like that's Michael Myers. Like he don't give a crap about what you are. He just wants you dead. As long as he goes after his person, you are dead meat. Um. I think my third favorite scene would honestly be. Um. Sorry about the yawning. It's just a little bit. It's kind of late. It's like almost like 11 at the time I'm recording this, so I'm getting a little bit tired. Um. I think my third favorite scene would honestly have to be. Um. Oh, it's hard. It's like because along like kind of like with the first one, it's like this whole movie is like my favorite scene, kind of like the thing. Not as much though. Um, but I guess my third favorite scene would honestly have to be um maybe probably just the final battle again with between Laurie, Loomis and versus Michael. Cause like I guess the kind of for anyone who hasn't seen it, um they both like they run away like after they finally get they like Loomis and Laurie kind of reunite. Loomis shoots Michael, I think 5 times or like 5 6 times. Um. Oh yeah, no 5 times because yeah. Like 2 scenes before this final conflict, while Dr. Loomis was actually getting taken back to the sanitarium, or the sanatorium, however the hell you say it, sanatorium, uh, Chambers mentions that Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister. So it's like, okay, well now it makes sense why he's still chasing her. Um, and it comes down to the point where Loomis like just pulls the gun on the cop. He's like where is the hospital? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, oh, you think I'm like, he's like basically like, you think I'm fucking around? I'll shoot. You want me to fire a warning shot? He just fires like, his gun at the window, and then the cop like just does like a U-E, like just does like a U-turn and speeds off to the hospital, and then Loomis shoots Michael 5 times, and then he's presumed dead again. And then Dr. Loomis is like, don't go close to him, you idiot. He's gonna kill you. He's like, and the cop's like, he stopped breathing. And then Michael just grabs him and slits his wrist with slits his throat, sorry, with the scalpel. And it's like, and then finally, Laurie and Loomis get trapped into a room. Michael breaks in and Loomis tries to shoot him, but he's like, oh crap, I'm out. And Michael just shanks him with the scalpel. But Loomis gave Laurie another gun, or like his second gun. So, um, Laurie's like, don't make me do it. Like, stop. And like, obviously Michael isn't stopping. So she shoots him 2 times, like right in the face. And my favorite shot in the whole movie is Michael sitting there with the eyes dripping down like tears, because obviously Loris has shot him in the eyes, so now he can't see. So now you just see like the blood just start dripping down his face from his eyes, and that's like the most iconic shot in the whole movie. Which is actually, even though the cover for the steelbook is like him on fire, you could actually notice. I'm gonna try and hold it as still as possible. You could see that his eyes, if you actually look at his eyes, there's blood dripping down. So, kind of a clever touch to whoever made that steelbook. Nice touch. Um, but um, yeah. So Laura shoots out his eyes and he starts swinging, and then Loomis starts like turning on like a gas can, and then Michael hears the noise and he starts swinging towards Loomis, and then Lori starts turning the 2 gas cans near him or near her, and then Michael starts swinging towards her, and then Loomis like pulls like pipes out of the wall, and then more noise, and then Michael starts heading that way, and Loomis like, okay, Lori, go, like bounce, and so Lori gets out of there, starts running, and Loomis just flicks the lighter, and then boom, the whole room just explodes. Um, um, and then we get the iconic shot, which is on the cover of this, where Michael starts walking out of the burning room on fire, before finally dropping down and slowly burning. And at the time of this film's release, Michael Myers was dead. And not to really go more, well, to kind of go into depth about it, the rest of the series, but um, Halloween. So this was quote unquote the death of Michael at this point in the franchise. But when this movie came out, everyone thought, "Oh, Michael Myers is dead," and so it didn't help matters that the following year, Universal released, because Universal got the rights, because Halloween was an independent film, so Universal got the rights to the sequel. So they made the sequel, which you can actually, if you just look at the disc, it actually says Universal right there. Or it shows the Universal logo. But anyway, so they made Halloween 2. It made shit tons of money. And they killed off Michael Myers. And then John Carpenter was like, okay, let's try to make an anthology series now, where basically every single movie, we make one movie a year. And it's a new plot for each movie. And then those can have separate timelines that go on to different things, like different series and shit like that. And so the first attempt was Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which which was basically about some guy putting chips of Stonehenge into masks to basically kill the world's children. It gets weird. That film tanked and nearly killed the Halloween franchise. And they were like, well, crap. This film bombed, so now what do we have to do? Well, Michael Myers seemed pretty popular when with Halloween 1 and 2. Let's just make let's just make another Halloween movie with Michael Myers back. And so they went off and made Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which I personally think is a really good Halloween movie. Not as good as Halloween 1 and 2 and H2O, honestly, which came after this, but I think it's like in the top 4 or 5. Um, and then 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. 6, Curse of Michael Myers. And then we have H2O, Resurrection. And then we got the 2 Rob Zombie movies, or remakes. And then we have the 2018 one. And now we're going to have Halloween Kills, which is basically a sequel to the 2018 one. So we got a lot of movies there, and also a lot of timelines, which, again, I don't want to go into this that much, but basically there is, I think, 4 or 5 now separate timelines now to the Halloween franchise. Um, so the first timeline is Halloween, the original one. Then we have Halloween 2, and then it goes Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween 6. That's it. Um, uh, 4 through 6 is commonly known as the Thorn trilogy, because of Not so in 4, but more in 5 and 6 with this Thorn cult bullshit. Um, it gets really stupid. But again, that's thoughts I can relate or not relate, relay in future Halloween specials when I get to the feature movies and talk about them. Um, but anyway, so yeah, the first timeline is Halloween 2, and Halloween 4, 5, and 6. And then we have another. Then the second timeline is Halloween 2, and then Halloween H2O, and then Resurrection. We got that. And then we have the third timeline, which is Halloween 1978, and then we have Halloween 2018, and then now we have Halloween Kills. So those are three. And then we have the two Rob Zombie films, which can count as its own timeline. And then we have Halloween 3, which again is separate from the Michael Myers story. Um, so that counts as a separate timeline. So we so far have 5 timelines to the Halloween series. Wow, what a clusterfuck. Um, and by the way, really quickly, I forgot to mention this earlier, I think, but this was released on October 30th of 1981. Um, and like I said earlier when I was talking about this Blu-ray edition, it did have like the first film a TV version that came out I think around 1983, 84. Um, but honestly, this one has less things to mention about because honestly, most of the changes or most of the differences between with the TV version is basically just cutting out gore or nudity or changing around scenes. Um, which you guys, if you guys want to learn more about that, I will link a video in the description below that goes more into depth about that sort of thing. But the only really thing that I want to talk about here is the scene that was actually added into this version called what's it's called Lori Freaks Out, which is basically Jimmy, who is played by Lance Guest, um, comes into Laura's room and he mentions the fact of uh, which by the way, hold up, I want to really quickly go back to my favorite scenes. Um, Before the whole final conflict at the hospital. There was a scene before that I could not stop laughing at, and it was basically um, they think uh, Loomis and the sheriff Lee Brackett are searching around the neighborhood for Michael Myers because Loomis said he's out there, and they see a kid that has a very similar costume, like obviously the boiler suit, not the same mask or not the exact same mask, but the same mask, but like with blonde hair. And so Loomis is like, "Son of a bitch, that's him. Go!" And like Loomis starts chasing him, and the sheriff like stops him, like, "No, don't shoot!" And Loomis throws him off, goes to shoot, and the sheriff stops him, like, "Don't do it!" And all of a sudden, a fucking police car just comes up, rams him, and it rams the kid into the side of a van, and it fucking explodes. Like, oh my god! Like, it was like, it just comes right the hell out of nowhere, and you just go, what the fuck? Like, out of nowhere. I literally showed my some of my friends that clip, and they were all just fucking befuddled. They were just like, what just happened?" I was like, "Yeah, exactly, same here. What the hell?" And I could not stop laughing because I'm just like, am I supposed to take this seriously or am I supposed to be laughing at it? Um, but it was, oh my god. Um, but Jesus. Um, but I need to quickly end this review before it gets too later. Um, but yeah. So really quick, I want to talk about the score for this film. It's basically almost the exact same as the first film, just obviously with different instruments and stuff like that. Whereas with the first film, it sounds like it was done on a piano, like an actual like a piano. this film sounds like it was done like on like a Casio keyboard, like a synthesizer. Um, and it's I think it's honestly out of the two, I think I honestly slightly prefer this score to the first one. Not saying that the first one was bad or anything. I think it's one of the best scores ever made for a horror movie. But I just think that the synth touch to like all the tracks that were done in the first film, I think were made this film sound a little bit more gothic, and I love it. This was the music was done by John Carpenter again, but also with Alan Howarth, who I believe their first collaboration was on Escape from New York. And then obviously they went on to do Halloween 2. They did I think They Live, um, and a whole bunch of other John Carpenter flicks after Escape from New York. Um, and this and like I said before, I think the score is very good for this movie. There was a 30th anniversary edition CD that came out a few years ago, like in 2011. I believe it's on streaming services. If you guys could try and find that, let me know. But anyway, again, if you find that, let me know in the comments below. Um, and so yeah, final thoughts. It's a very good sequel. As good as the first one? Not really. Um, but I think it's a very good follow up. I think if I had to rank all my favorite horror movies, I think I would put The Thing at number one, John Carpenter's Halloween at number two, and it's slightly below that Halloween 2. Um, and then probably New Nightmare at number four, and the original Nightmare on Elm Street at number five. Um, but um, but yeah, but I'm gonna give this film a 8 out of 10. It was a solid follow up to the first film. It just sucks that as the series went on after two, it kind of just started going downhill until it just crash landed, which and then they thankfully brought it back with the 2018 film. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this year's Halloween special. Stay tuned for next week, where or I don't know if I'm actually going to be uploading a review next week, but I guess we'll find out. And also next week is my birthday, so um, I'll see if I could try and upload a video around then. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys possibly next week for another review. And happy Halloween, everyone. Live long and prosper. Out.